So let's talk about FMDQ. Nigeria's FMDQ group will on Monday unveil a new virtual platform called FMDQ Green Exchange, the first of its kind in Africa. The new platform is part of the wider global focus on how to finance the hundreds of billions of dollars needed to fight climate change. Let's examine the role of the Nigerian markets in this ongoing international discourse as we turn to Johnson Chukwu, who is the CEO at Cowry Asset Management. Great to have you with us in the studio this evening.
For having me. Good evening.
Thank you so much. What are these sustainable long-term funding options for Nigeria as President Buhari signposts that Nigeria will go for compliance by the year 2060?
Well, in the first place, today's financial markets are shying away from what we may call dirty energy, and we see a lot of funds going into sustainable energy funding sources, for sustainable energy funding. So for Nigerian environment, we can tap into some of the funds outside the Nigerian market, but we can also set up funds that are focused on funding green energy. Because as it stands today, the world economy, the global society is moving away from fossil fuel, high pollutant energy sources. And all funding sources are focusing on what are those energy sources that are sustainable. You look at funding of wind-powered energy sources, funding of solar-powered energy sources, and Nigerian market should not be an exception. I'm happy that the president has adopted 2060 as the year Nigeria will comply with zero emission. Most other countries have actually adopted 2050 to reduce the contribution of fossil fuel as energy source from current 80% to less than 20%.
Okay, so what are your expectations, Johnson, in terms of listed companies reporting on their compliance with net zero emission cutback? The SEC, Nigeria's SEC, issued a statement today that this is a good to do for the Nigerian market in terms of the issuers. How soon do you think this should start?
Well, I think it should start immediately. IFRS has actually come up with a sustainable sustainable board, and that board is supposed to come up with a decision whether to make sustainable reporting compulsory or still voluntary as we have it today. So for Nigerian entities, you have to look at what the benefits of having such reports. In the first place, it burnishes your reputation globally and makes it easy for you to access funding in case you need to access funding beyond the Nigerian market. I had mentioned earlier that most funding entities globally are shying away from funding dirty energy sources. And so if you have your sustainable report that shows your environmentally, your activities are environmentally friendly, you are abiding by the highest level of climate respect for the climate, and that your operation is such that your activities are not leading to emission of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. It will actually help you attract global recognition, global patronage, and position the entities, Nigerian corporate entities, as international entities that respect the climate. So it's an interest to adopt that as far back as yesterday, because there are about 42 companies that have actually subscribed as the pioneers to driving sustainable reporting as part of their annual reports.
Well, so is this net zero emission, the whole climate change conversation, is it consistent? Is it in line with the existing sustainability reporting standards set for listed companies by the Nigerian Exchange Limited?
Yes, it's part of it's embedded in the sustainable reporting that has been defined for quoted companies. Because the greatest challenge to the climate is carbon emission. And that's why, as I mentioned earlier, that if you look at the sustainable plan, the COP 26, that is Charter of Parties 26, the Glasgow meeting of this month, the focus is to ensure that we reduce fossil fuel contribution to energy source from 80% as we have it today to about 20%, less than 20% by 2050. So for Nigerian companies, reporting on zero emission as part of your sustainable reporting is a critical component of sustainable reporting, because apart from that, the next component is about governance, that you have a governance structure that ensure that you have minimal disruption of the ecosystem, and that you also respect the entire ecosystem in terms of respect for the plants, respect for animals and humans.
So what roles can you market professionals and your institutions play towards the climate change? Do you think we need a focus index within the Nigerian market? Do we need to manage funds on climate change? Would that be good to have?
Yes, I think one of our colleagues have actually set up a fund that is focused on green energy. And I think we should have a lot more of such funds so as to galvanize funding towards Nigerians investing in sustainable energy sources. We talked about, good thing we have here is that we have in abundance some of those major energies, green energy sources. We just need to have the capacity to exploit them. And that capacity will come if operators, capital market operators, set up funds that investors can tap into to invest in things like wind energy powered power plants, solar energy power plants, including what you may call houses that are energy friendly, that have that generate their own energy, and they don't need to be connected to the national grid. So, but without capital, it will be difficult for investors to invest in this sector. So our duty is to galvanize funding by setting up funds that will be targeted or specifically purposed for funding of green energy.
Just give me 1 minute very quickly for the FMDQ launching Africa's first ever virtual green exchange next week. Johnson, what do you think?
Well, I think it's quite creative. It's also forward-looking. The fact that while we are talking of setting up funding, including mutual funds for green energy, FMDQ is already thinking of setting up a structure that will trade such funds purposely for trading of such assets related to green energy.
Johnson Chukwu, CEO at Cowry Asset Management, thank you so much for your time, and do have a great evening.